This conference will now be recorded.
So I'll just repeat that because we just started recording. We're going to go on a little bit. We're hoping that Professor Bill will join us, and we want to go to another prostate cancer celebrity, Jerry Deans, who's has lifelong service to us too, and I think is still the vice chair, I'm not sure, of the board. And then we also want to touch base with Joe Boardman, who has been an incredible inspiration to a lot of guys that have read his article, as Len will attest. We were just waiting, and I'm just going to wait a couple more minutes to see if Bill appears. Did he say he was phoning in, or was he going to come in online, Jake?
He didn't say.
Okay.
He was awake.
Good. Okay. Well, we'll see. So let's, without further ado, let us get started. And I want to welcome Jerry Deans. Some of you know Jerry because he's been on and off this call for a long time. Jerry has one of the most unusual cases of prostate cancer that I think I've ever seen, which he'll tell us about very briefly. But basically, his disease goes back to 1999. And when it metastasized to soft tissue. And as most of you know, that doesn't bode well for most people. But in Jerry's case, it seemed to come and go over many years. And in the last year or so, it's really raised its head again. And so we've been talking. Jerry will tell you where he's being treated because it's important, and what he plans to do. And also, Jerry, I'd love for you to mention that air service that you've availed yourself of. And maybe you can send me the link and we'll put it as a resource on our website.
Okay. Well, let me get started with just saying that I was diagnosed over 20 years ago now. And I've had a lot of different interventions, surgery, radiation, Provenge, Lupron, Eligard, Firmagon, most recently Eligard and enzalutamide. And a little over a year ago, I had a cyberknife treatment to a nodule in my lungs where this cancer seemed to like to go to. And my theory was if we knocked it out there, maybe we would knock out the mothership. Well, it gave me a year, and I'm glad for that year, but it didn't knock out the mothership by any stretch of the imagination. My PSA went down. It was 1 point something and rising. Now, my PSA, you've got to understand, up until recently has never been above about 3. And it is now at 4.9 something, okay, and rising at a rate, pretty rapid rate. It's almost doubling on a monthly basis. So, I saw Snuffy Myers until he retired, and Snuffy did a great job of caring for me and then passed me off to Charles Drake. So I've been seeing Charles Drake in New York City, and under his guidance, we did the Provenge, or tried the Provenge. We tried the cyberknife, and we stayed on enzalutamide and ketoconazole and Firmagon, and then switched more recently to Eligard. But recently, Dr. Drake had me come up just last week before last, for a PSMA PET CT scan. I have found out, although I haven't met with him yet, that I am PSMA positive, and that the scan showed um, um, showed several places in the body. I'm suspecting they're in the bone, but I don't know that. I won't know until tomorrow. Several places in the body that are PSMA expressed. And so he's recommending a clinical trial for me up there. I know that much. But I just found out, like within the last hour, that it's not the Lucium trial, Rick. It's another one that I sent to you. And let me just sidestep just a ways to say that the way I'm getting to New York City is with a private pilot that works for Mercy Medical. And I found out about them through a friend of my wife, and they will either on the basis of your inability to pay or being a veteran, they will fly you to appointments. And it's a great service. I've flown once with them, and small planes, not a big jet line or anything like that. So be prepared. But if you've been in the military, you've probably flown in small planes before. And so I'll be flying again tomorrow in a single engine plane up to New York City and returning in the same day. It's a wonderful service. It's not costing me anything. It cost me $100 to get from Teterboro Airport over to Columbia, but you get over there and get back, but that's not nearly as bad as it would be if I were flying commercial. So I'm going to send Rick a link to a YouTube video that the pilot did on me a couple of weeks ago. It's about our life and a book I've written about this whole experience of prostate cancer and a whole lot of other things that our family has been through. But at any rate, so I found out last hour that one of the studies, at least the study that he sent the consent form to me on, was region 5, 6, 7, 8, anti-PSMA XCD28 with plimab, an anti-PD-1. And it's a phase 1/2 trial. And it's either with one or both. So some are being given the region 5, 6, 7, 8, given alone, and then in combination with plimab, which is I guess it's anti-PD-1, according to this. I haven't had a chance to get through it yet, but anyhow, I've had an unusual cancer. Snuffy's kept me alive for about 18 years, and Charles Drake has done an excellent job up to this point, but just last month, my PSA spiked to a level that it's never been in the 20 years that I've been fighting it, which is I think I already said this, almost 5. So it's doubling on a monthly basis right now, and I think it's time that we look at doing something about it. I've not had chemotherapy. I've not had Keytruda or any of the a lot of other alternatives actually, but this is the one that he's thinking about for me because I am PSMA positive according to the scan, and this drug apparently is one of them that is sensitive to PSMA and drawn to PSMA. So Rick, is there anything else you'd like for me to share?
Oh, I think that was great. I would, if you would, I'd love to get the name of that pilot mission again, if you can give it to me.
Yeah, it's Mercy Medical, and the I'm going to send you a link to it, but it's and the person's name that's the flight coordinator, at least on the East Coast, that is a lady by the name of Gretchen Devine.
Okay.
And
do you know the website by any chance?
you know, I think so. It's her address is her email address is gretchen.devine, DEVINE @mercymedical.org.
Okay, so we'll try. I'm putting it in the chat window, gents. And so, what some of you will try it. I know Mercy Medical, medical.org. And I also tried to put Jerry's trial in the chat window, but I failed. So I'm going to try again momentarily. I just want to make a couple of comments, and then I will we'll open it up. It does look from this trial that you're talking about, it certainly does look like this drug is PSMA sensitive. It says it is. It's not a drug I've even heard of. Len, are you familiar with Regeneron 5678? I think you're muted, Len. There you go.
Sorry. Well, I'm familiar with Regeneron. It's only about 15, 20 miles from my house, but that number I don't know.
Okay.
So,
what was the number, Rick? I can take a quick look.
I do have the trial in front of me, but I cannot, I don't know how to turn it into a web file that we can get it. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to forward it to you and Jake, and then one of you is going to figure out how to get a URL out of it. So, and then we'll post it on here so you guys can look. So the number is REGN 5678, and let's see if the trial number is on here. No, I don't see a trial number. I don't see a clinicaltrials.gov number on it. But maybe Len will come up with something.
I sent you the consent form, and it has the protocol title, a phase 1/2 study of region 5678 anti-PSMA XCD28 with semiplimab anti-PD-1 in patients with metastatic castrate-resistant prostate cancer.
Right. So I thank you for that. I have it. I'm just forwarding it to Jake and to Len, and they'll figure out how to post it somehow so that everybody who's online can at least see it. There are a couple of things I just wanted to mention. Since the two of us, Jerry and I, have had a couple of conversations over the last few days. One of my concerns was that Dr. Drake was eager at first, or talked with, I shouldn't say he was eager, but he certainly discussed Keytruda with Jerry. And they've also raised the BRCA drugs, but Jerry has never been sequenced genomically, been sequenced germline, and there wasn't really anything that came out of it, but not genomically. And I find it interesting that Dr. Drake is discouraging sequencing because he says, you know, only 3% or only 5% of the people are eligible. Well, I know that that's an issue a lot of you have faced on this call, but we know right now that there's only a small percentage of men that respond to some of these treatments. But when you get to a certain point in the disease, you're willing to roll the dice in the hope that you might be one of those people, just like we found for Jake, who may well be a candidate for olaparib and would never have known that had he not been sequenced. So I don't, and I said this to Jerry, and I will say it to everybody, don't get discouraged if the doc says, well, it's only 3% or 8% or 5% or 10%, because you could be in there, you might not be. You know, don't get your expectations up when you get sequenced. But I think that if it's available to you, it's worth doing. And especially to somebody like Jerry, who's got a really weird type of prostate cancer, doesn't make PSA, likes to live in the soft tissue, has been around for 25 years. There's something strange in there. And so let's go ahead and sequence him as best as we can. And who knows, maybe we'll find nothing, as Dr. Drake suspects. Or maybe we'll find something, and then that'll give Jerry yet another option. So I'll get off my soapbox and open it up to anybody who wants to talk to Jerry about his strange situation or this Regeneron or whatever it is. Oh, and I see Rich Jackson put the Regeneron in, but that's not a link. It's not a live link, Rich.
All right, the short protocol title is R5678
Yeah,
ONC-1879.
Yeah, we got it. We got it. Thank you, Rich. Rich.
It is a good link, Rick. It is a good link that Rich gave us.
Yeah, it's a good link. And for those of you on the telephone, if you go to clinicaltrials.gov, and I would suggest putting in REGN 5678, REGN 5678, you know, where it asks for special words or names, I think you'll pull it up. So, Len, can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, super. So who's got any questions or would like to discuss or has any thoughts for how Jerry might proceed?
So as far as I can tell, it appears that this this drug that they want to use for Jerry, it's what they call a bispecific monoclonal antibody. So one, it's like an antibody that attaches to two molecules or proteins. One is the PSMA, which is expressed by the prostate cancer cell, and the other is an antigen on T cells called CD28. And binding of that antigen on a T cell activates the T cell. So what this drug is doing is bringing together an activated T cell with the prostate cancer cell so that the activated T cell will kill the cancer cell. Sounds pretty interesting.
Does, doesn't it? Well,
Jerry, just one other thing. Did they ever tell you that is this just adenocarcinoma or adenocarcinoma of the prostate, or has the cell morphed into, the cancer morphed into anything different from that?
Has it morphed? You know, I don't know that I know the answer to that. I'm sure it's morphed. But every time that we have biopsied it, and we have confirmed in every instance, including just before we did the CyberKnife, we confirmed that it was prostate cancer. We did the CyberKnife at Georgetown. So where it came in the lungs, the lower left lobe of my lungs, we determined that it was in fact prostate cancer there before they treated it. I don't know what other information we have from that.
Okay. Just curious, when they treated you with CyberKnife, was it just one lesion that they zapped, or was it more than one?
Just one.
Okay.
And that lesion lit up on an acumen scan.
Okay.
Len, thank you for that really brief but very, very helpful description of what this Regeneron is supposed to do. It sounds like an exciting drug that I think for most of us has not been on our radar before. And Jerry, I mean, it sounds like a heck of an opportunity. I guess the big issue are the logistics, and hopefully you can take care of them. I think I still would talk to him about the lutetium trial in at UVA and ask him whether he thinks if you did at least one or maximum 2 rounds of chemo, whatever that chemo might be, how he would compare this REGN 5678 to getting into a lutetium 177 trial. I mean, there's no way that I don't think anybody on this call can answer that, but I think Drake would be able to. The problem is Drake is probably going to have a bias, but you've got to, we talked about that earlier, and you're going to have to take that into account with what he tells you. But having said all of that, this looks like a very exciting drug, and I doubt that it will, you know, if you don't get anything, God forbid it doesn't work for you, you know, you can still go down, still go on to the lutetium. So who else, anyone else want to say anything, to ask any questions of Jerry about his 22-year? Jerry, what's the title of your book?
The title of the book is Lost But Not Forgotten.
Okay, and can we find that on Amazon?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Okay, so I can order it off of Amazon. I think I've got to read this book. I really want, to be honest, I really want a signed copy. But
Rick, this is Carl Foreman. I do have a question for Jerry. I wanted to zero in on Jerry. At what point in time did you have your Provenge treatment? I myself had it approximately 6 months ago, which was about 8 months after my initial diagnosis. So I'm still relatively new compared to your travels. And I just wanted to know, I know that Provenge has been around, I think, for a number of years, but there have been recent studies that have been shown that how effective it really can be, and I'm hoping that it's going to help me in my journey as well.
Well, I hope it is for you as well. It seems to me that I had I'm trying to piece all this together right now. I've been seeing Drake now. I saw Snuffy Myers until he retired, and I went to see Dr. Drake, and very soon after that, we tried Provenge when the PSA was fairly low, but rising, and it did not have an impact on that rise. So, you know, at that time I was on Firmagon and enzalutamide, and we were able to stay on those. And ketoconazole, that's the other drug that I've been on ever since I've been seeing Drake. All 3 of those drugs. And then more recently, I switched from Firmagon to Eligard, a 6-month Eligard shot that I get through the VA. So,
it was, Jerry, I have it in my notes that it was around the summer of 2017 that you did your Provenge.
Yes, that's probably correct. Provenge in the summer of 2017, Cyberknife in 2018, and now it's on the rise again. So
Yes, I had been told from the very beginning with Provenge, it won't necessarily affect your PSA. It's just overall your immune system that it's trying to boost. I understand now. You're saying you're with the VA. Did the VA pay for your Provenge?
no, let's see. I'm trying to think. I am with I'm with Medicare, and I had no cost with Medicare.
Mhm.
And my supplemental insurance, which is Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, that's great, because I just got an updated invoice from my insurance company, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield, and the total has run into the range of approximately $250,000, which my out of pocket was zero for the Provenge treatment.
Yeah, I didn't pay anything for Provenge. I'd cleared my deductibles that year already, and it didn't cost me anything. And I even had a local oncologist work under Dr. Drake's guidance to give me that drug, so I didn't have to go for the infusions to New York.
So
What about this trial, Jerry? You're going to have to go to New York, or can you do that locally?
Well, what he tells me is that, let's see, let me pull it up. My question to him, after talking to Rick, is what about the radionuclide clinical trial there? Am I eligible for lutetium, or will I need a round of chemo first? And if so, is a carboplatin the best alternative for me? He responded, this is by far your best bet. Your cancer is PSMA positive. So a PSMA targeted approach makes total sense. We have 3 trials open, but they're all intense, require weekly visits and occasional overnight stays in the hospital. We will bring informed consent documents to your visit tomorrow. I assumed we were talking about the lutetium trial, but because he did not, it puzzled Rick and I, because he did not say, well, you're going to need a couple of rounds of chemo before you'll be eligible. So when I got this, and I've only got about 3 pages deep in it, it doesn't appear that this, chemo is a requirement for this drug.
Well, look, we have to move on. We'd love to talk to you for another hour because it's just so fascinating. But I'm going to try and extract a little public promise from you, Jerry, that you'll come back and tell us more about what you decide after you've seen Dr. Drake tomorrow, and how you're proceeding and how you're faring, because we really want to hear more about this.
I absolutely will, and I'll send you an interesting video that was done. The guy that flew me up the first time did a GoPro and interviewed me, and it'll give you a sense of the little plane we were on, and it was quite an experience. So if you're not aversive to fly in small planes, 2-passenger planes, and you can handle that sort of thing, this Mercy Medical is a great way to get. And if you happen to be a veteran, you're in with no test for whether you're able to pay for it or not.
Fantastic. Jerry, we wish you a very, very safe trip tomorrow. And if you want to drop off the call right now, we understand you got to get some shut-eye before a real early start. So thank you for coming on, and Godspeed.
Yeah, more than importantly, I need to still my mind and get clear and centered before this meeting tomorrow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. We have somebody on the telephone who hasn't identified. Could it possibly be Professor Bill?
No, this is Jim Ward.
Oh, it's Jim Ward. Oh,
Hey, gentlemen.
we thought
I joined a little late. Sorry.
Yes, we got you. But Jake, maybe you can give Bill a call again. Just try him one time for the last time and see if he's going to come on. And we'll keep moving along.
Okay, I'll try it again.
Yeah, please.
He assured me he was going to come on.
I know. And then he has trouble with his telephone, and that's what so just check with him. What we'll do next is we'll go to Dennis McGuire. And Dennis, we usually start with the new men, but I promised Jerry that I would get through him quickly so that he could get off and get to sleep. And I also knew he had an exceptionally interesting story. And even more so now, he's been offered a very, very interesting drug that none of us really knew about. And by the way, for those of you on this call who haven't been on too much, it's really one of the reasons why this call works so well. I mean, you hear about stuff you don't hear about anywhere else. And it's amazing. Anyway, I am going to turn the introduction of Dennis McGuire over to my buddy Len, and he'll explain why.
Okay. Well, Dennis and I were buddies from our local US2 prostate cancer group in Danbury, Connecticut. It was called Ann's Place. And that's where we first met. I'm not even sure, maybe it goes back 2 years at least, maybe more than that. And I forget exactly. Oh, that's right. Now I remember, Dennis, you notified Jim Coffey, the leader of the group, that you were moving because you hadn't been to one of the meetings in a while. And then Jim notified me. So I gave you a call to find out what was going on. And so Dennis told me that he just decided to move out of the Connecticut area over to Madison, Wisconsin, to be closer to family. Dennis is a Gleason 8. I think his original PSA was about 200 or so. And Dennis, I'll just let you take it from there because I don't recall too many of the details of your condition. So go ahead.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for that introduction, Len, and appreciate you inviting me to this group. I look forward to it. Yeah, so a little background. I'm 54 years old. I was diagnosed 4 years ago at 50. And Len did recall correctly the Gleason 8. The very distant metastatic in the lymph nodes outside of the pelvic area. I did have some lymph node involvement as far away as the collarbone or the clavicular lymph node. So I immediately started Lupron, and then 2 months.
Hello again. This is Jake Raincan. As always, we had.
Sorry about that.
2 months. No problem. 2 months into Lupron, I did chemotherapy, docetaxel for I think it was over 4 months. I did 6 treatments of docetaxel. I'll back up a little bit. The Lupron did bring my PSA down significantly, I think below 20, and then the over the course of time with the docetaxel chemotherapy, that brought my PSA down to, I think, like 1.5. I'm being treated at Sloan Kettering, and my doctor is Dr. Michael Morris. I've also talked to several doctors outside of Sloan Kettering as second and third opinions. And I think the standard of care and course of action has all been consistent from all the doctors I've spoken to. The chemotherapy and the Lupron only lasted about a year, and then my PSA started to rise again. It went up to 5, and then I started Xtandi, and I've been on Xtandi and Lupron, continued with the Lupron, and I've been on Xtandi for 18 months. That was effective initially and brought the PSA back down to around 2, but that is starting to fail, and my PSA has been rising over the last 4 or 5 months, and the PSA on the last read, which I just had last week, is now 7. So I'm at a critical point now where I have to decide next step for the next treatment.
Dennis, I'm sure if you're at Memorial Sloan Kettering, you've been scanned along the way. Where does the latest scan suggest you have Mets?
Oh yeah, good question. So once my PSA starts rising, I do go in for scans. So, over the past 9 months, I've been going in every 3 months for scans, and just with the traditional CT scan and bone scan, there have not been any significant changes.
So do you have Mets in the bone or still only in the lymph system?
The only thing they've identified so far is in the lymph nodes.
Wow, that's very interesting.
Have you done a PSMA type PET scan?
Hold on, Joe, hold on a second, and we'll come to you. I promise.
But okay, sorry.
Just hold tight.
Yeah.
What is Michael Morris recommending?
When we spoke 3 months ago, he had 2 options. One was giving Zytiga a try, acknowledging that if Xtandi fails, Zytiga is a long shot.
Yep.
And then he also mentioned the lutetium trial. But my question with that is if they are still accepting patients.
Well, if they're not accepting patients at Memorial Sloan Kettering, we can definitely find places where they are. So, if lutetium's an option, it doesn't have to be at MSKCC. Weill Cornell has a bunch of trials going on, and there are trials all over the country. So that we could find. Joe's question, I think, was, have you done a gallium-68 PSMA scan at MSKCC?
I have not, but Len and I spoke about that a few weeks ago, and my next visit, I'm definitely going to ask for it.
I think there's something else, if it were me, that I would be asking for, and I'm not quite sure when I would do that. But since you're at Memorial Sloan Kettering and they have a proprietary sequencing ability, it would be great to get your tumor analyzed sooner rather than later. You know, I just don't get why these docs sit on not analyzing the tumor, because as we said earlier on, there's only a small percentage, but that small percentage can really benefit. And you again have pretty strange disease, you know, up and down, PSA at 200, but it only seems to appear in the lymph system. You know, we don't know exactly what we're dealing with, but maybe something would emerge. And Len knows more about this than me, and I'll let him talk to you.
Yeah, so let me just comment on that. So I did have the genetic sequencing done at the outset with Sloan Kettering, and there was nothing genetically there.
Okay.
The somatic test of the tumor itself, according to Dr. Morris, was plain vanilla prostate cancer, so nothing extraordinary.
Okay.
In terms of doing another biopsy to check the tumor, Dr. Morris said that the tumor is not large enough right now to biopsy.
That's interesting. I mean, Professor Bill, who I'm not sure if he's on the call yet, but Professor Bill had the same issue. And in the end, they were able to get a large enough sample out of a lymph node, and they were able to biopsy that. The other thing is that, you know, with a PSA of 7 or more, it's possible that you might find something in your blood and do a liquid biopsy, but maybe it is worth waiting. I mean, if they've done it once and it showed nothing, doesn't mean it won't show something the next time. But I take back what I said before, because in fact they have sequenced you somatically and you don't have any germline. So we have a couple of guys who are in similar situations to you. And first of all, I'd like to go to Jake, because he was on enzalutamide forever and a day. And then he tried abiraterone, and he'll tell you the rest of the story. Jake?
Yeah, hi. By the way, I've been trying to call Bill, but I keep getting his voicemail. So
okay, he probably fell asleep.
Phone issues or what?
Yeah,
I was on enzalutamide for a little bit over 2 years, and it worked for quite a while. Then it finally stopped working, so my doctor gave me Zytiga, and I've been on that now for 60 plus days, and so far it's not working very well. She wants to try it for 90 days, because apparently some people don't respond until 2 or 3 months. But anyway, so I'm going to be looking at something else besides Zytiga here shortly. I missed part of the conversation, Rick, because I was trying to get Bill. So am I answering the question?
You are. I think we should just add, for Dennis's benefit, that eventually, after a lot of persuading, we got Jake to do a biopsy. A liquid biopsy, but at least we got him to do that. And it looks like there's a mutation that may be responsive to a PARP inhibitor. Right. So, you know, that clearly indicates what Jake will do next, although our big challenge in Jake's case is to convince his community medical oncologist that a PARP inhibitor is appropriate, although I think if he were with Michael Morris or similar, that would not be an issue. Who else is on here? How about Ken Anderson? Because, you know, you were diagnosed at a very similar age. You've been through a lot of different things. Maybe you want to talk a little bit with Dennis about your story and where you're going now. You with us, Ken?
Hey, Rick, this is Jim Ward. I think Ken is traveling.
He's showing that He's showing on the list here. He's signed into.
Yeah, I think he's traveling in areas where the reception may not be that good.
Ah, okay. Well, if
he's up in the Pacific,
right,
he's up in the Pacific Northwest.
Right. If I see Ken's microphone light up, Dennis, I will certainly go to him if we're still on with you. If not, I'll connect you to Ken. He's now showing offline, interestingly. So I've got to connect Dennis and Ken. But Jim, why don't you know Ken's story a little bit, and you know your story, and you're a lot earlier than Dennis, but maybe you want to talk to Dennis a little bit.
Sure. Nice to meet you, Dennis. Yeah, I was diagnosed in December of last year, just on the cusp of turning 54, and at the time of diagnosis, my PSA was somewhere around 230. Biopsies they did were pretty limited, but I think I came in somewhere around at least 7 as an average. So I was started on immediately in January, and in March I began Zytiga, and I continued on that course as my PSA continued to come down. And I'm 2 weeks away from being finished with some radiation, with a course of 39 treatments at MD Anderson. So right now, I guess I'm castrate sensitive, I mean, that's kind of where I am right now. So I'm not. My journey, I haven't progressed on the journey as far as you have. I know that Ken has progressed further. I don't know his whole story in great detail, but I know that most recently he received some Provenge treatments, and that his PSA may be rising, albeit maybe more slowly, I think, than you. He and I both see the same GU oncologist at MD Anderson. Ken's a little more engaged with this GU onc than I am, because I live in Kansas City and I have a primary GU onc there, but I'm gonna switch over to the same doctor. But Ken's a real good guy. I'm actually going to meet him in person for the first time tomorrow. And he's got a lot of knowledge and a lot of, his story and his journey is something where I agree with Rick. I think maybe it might be worthwhile for you to visit with Ken. That's about all I can really offer, because I feel like I'm in some ways I'm just starting my journey.
So thank you, Jim. And if you'd like to read a little bit about Ken, Dennis, go to our blog, because we have his exploits, and then we also have Joe Boardman's exploits, which we'll hear about presently. And both of those are inspirational. If you haven't seen.
Les has had a lot of experience with metastatic lymph nodes, and he was treated down at Mayo.
Thank you. Thank you. Les, would you like to talk to Jim a little bit?
I really don't think I have much of anything to add.
Dennis, rather. No? What treatment are you on right now, Les?
I'm on nothing right now. Well, other than taking Lupron, or have taken, but I'm on absolutely nothing right now.
Right. Well, let me ask, who else does have or would like to talk to Dennis about what he should do and whether lutetium might be a good option for him or not? Is there anybody on the call who would like to address that?
Rick, I'd like to, I guess, reiterate to Dennis that I'm almost certain that MSK has both the gallium-68 PSMA scan and the even more sensitive one, which I had at the NIH, called PSMA PYL, 18F PYL. And like you, Dennis, I had several scans. My PSA was rising. I had Axumin scan. I had 2 technetium bone scans, which I think is what they were giving you at Sloan. I had the CT, chest, abdomen, pelvis, the whole thing. Everything was coming up negative. But when I had this more sensitive scanning radio tracer, they did find 3 bone lesions, one of which was biopsied and found to be positive. So it's always good to know what you're dealing with, where the cancer is, before they decide what to do. So I would press Morris to get you into one of the trials for the more sensitive scans. Should be no problem for him to do that. I did notice that Rick posted, I guess you're on the phone, Dennis, so you can't, we have a chat box which you probably can't see. But Rick posted a lutetium 177 trial. One of the sites was Sloan Kettering. However, I also noticed, Rick, that it said that was an active trial but not recruiting. So I don't know, maybe Morris can get you into it, even though it's officially no longer recruiting. That might be a good option for you, but I think they first need to see the extent of the lesions, and you really need a more sensitive scan.
Right.
Hey, Lynn, what was the name again of the second type of PSMA you said was more sensitive than the gallium?
Okay, the full name is 18F D as in David, CF, DCF PYL, 18F DCF PYL. And
say that 3 times, Len.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just known as the PYL PSMA PET scan. So, if you talk to any oncologist who knows what's going on, he'll have heard of the PYL PSMA scan.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's new?
It's not approved yet. It's still in clinical trials. I suspect it should be approved soon because it is detecting lesions where other radio tracers have failed.
Great.
Have failed to detect anything.
Okay, nice.
Gallium-68 PSMA is another one that's very promising, and that should be approved soon also.
I just put that in the chat window for those of you online. I also put in the chat window that this active but not recruiting trial is also taking place at Yale. Oh, wait a minute, you're in Madison now, aren't you? I forgot.
Yeah, he's in Madison, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if there's got to be a site in Wisconsin. Let me see, and I'll tell you in a minute. There's a lot of good stuff going on. They just became an NCCN hospital, and there's an awful lot of good stuff going on at the hospital in Wisconsin. I don't see it there, but I'll look. Anyway, look, we are going to move on. Dennis, I think you're on our list now, and we have some information on on you. Len, did you send me Dennis's email address?
Well, yeah, you did email him recently, so you have it.
Right, perfect.
Yeah,
Okay.
Rick, I'm getting your emails.
Okay, perfect. So
Hey,
I'll fill out the rest of your profile that I keep here. One last shout out. Anybody else want to say anything or speak to Dennis McGuire before we move on?
Does lutetium go through the PSMA pathway? I mean,
Yes.
so you need to have a PSMA test to see if you're positive anyway before they stick you on lutetium.
Correct.
Right.
Yep. Right.
hey, Rick, could I ask one question of the group?
You may, of course.
I hear Provenge frequently being used. And when I ask Sloan Kettering about Provenge, they dismiss it as not meaningful. So I'm kind of at a roadblock and don't really know how to deal with that.
Sure. Well, I'm going to let the group answer because a couple of the other guys have faced this in the group. I will tell you they've always said that, going back 4 or 5 years. I also encourage you to attend the webinar that we're going to have on September 30th. This is a great, you gave me a great segue here because the principal investigator for Provenge is going to be talking to us, Larry Fong, who now runs the Immuno-Oncology Center at UCSF and is just a wonderful guy. I can't say enough good things about Larry. And he's a great person to ask why the heck Memorial Sloan Kettering won't prescribe Provenge. But what we do know is the earlier, as Carl said earlier in the conversation, it appears the earlier you get Provenge, the better you are, and you are a perfect candidate. Now, let me ask: is there anybody on this call who has tried to get Provenge from Memorial Sloan Kettering, not been able to, and gone around them? Okay. We've had that. I'd have to go look. I can't tell you off the top of my head, but we've had it. We've had people who went around. My feeling is that you just make an appointment with another doc, like maybe Len's doc, Dr. O at Mount Sinai, and you do it that way. But I just find it pig-headed of these Memorial Sloan Kettering docs that they won't let you do Provenge because we really don't see anything. We don't see a downside. It's like chicken soup. It may help, it can't hurt. Len?
Yeah, I agree. And there are statistics to show that if you begin Provenge with a PSA less than 20, and you're certainly there, Dennis, that the survival benefit is not just a matter of months, but over a year and a half. And as Rick said, you've got nothing to lose there. I think some institutions like Sloan, maybe they just feel that it's too expensive and too uncertain, let's say, of the outcome. They don't have anything to measure success.
Yeah, okay. I do have a doctor at the University of Wisconsin. It's called the Carbone Cancer Center. I'll speak to him. I don't know if they administer Provenge, but I will ask him.
I think they do. I'm not certain, but I think they do. Who's your doc there?
Joshua Lang.
Okay. And
then his partner is Dr. McNeil, who I've also seen.
Okay. And you're in Madison, right?
Yes.
Well, if you get frustrated with them, and you know, we've got a couple of fantastic docs that we could recommend either in Chicago or Minneapolis. But my guess is you'll get some joy out of Wisconsin.
Okay. Thank you, Rick.
That's keep coming back to us, and don't hesitate to get in touch with us if you need some help. Okay, and I'll connect you to Ken Anderson for sure. Okay, time for the roll call, and so let me just run down quickly, see who needs to speak, and then I think that we'll ask Joe Boardman to kick us off in any event, but let me run down and see who needs to speak here. So, Jake, look at this, Jake. First off, oh, he's busy talking to somebody. Are you talking to me? I can see his face, that's why. If you're talking to me, Jake, you're muted.
I think he's on the phone, Rick.
Oh, he's on the phone. Okay. We'll come back to Jake, but just let him know we did ask him first. Dennis Correa.
No, thanks, Rick.
No. Jeff Marchi, I know you'd like to say something today.
Yeah, I'm on my third relapse. And
Okay.
I just real quick, I had my surgery in 2010.
Okay, we'll come back to you, Jeff. I'm just going to go through the list so I know how many people want to speak. Okay. Ken isn't here. Les Shelderup, anything for you?
Not tonight.
Hey,
Thank you, Rick.
Okay.
I just got to my location, so I'm back, but I don't need to speak.
Oh, well, we wanted to. Okay, well, can we just quickly introduce you to Dennis McGuire?
Sure. You know, I listened to part of the conversation, but I was going from one country town to another country town, just repositioning, getting closer to the airport.
Okay.
So I only got about half the conversation.
Okay, well, you can listen to it again when we post it tomorrow. And I'm going to connect you and Dennis, and maybe you can talk to him a little bit. Dennis was diagnosed at age 50. He's now 54. So
We'll do for sure. We'll do for sure.
Okay. Dennis, you just heard Ken Anderson.
Right.
So
Nice to meet you, Ken.
Rick, can you hear me?
I can.
We hear you, Bill.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that Bill?
That's
Yeah.
Bill.
Oh, Bill. Well, listen,
Yeah.
Hold on one second, Bill. I know I'm halfway through. I'm sorry this is a disjointed call today, but we have such significant people that I'm just going to stop for the time being, and I'm going to ask Professor Bill Burhans to fill us in on how he's doing in hospice. I'm so happy to hear your voice.
Oh boy, Rick, I've been trying to get in on the call for the last 2 hours, and I'm beat.
Okay.
I don't know what the problem was. I've been trying my phone and my computer, and I'm clearly the problem is mine. I'm just not doing what I needed to do. But I'm just beat. I don't think that I can go forward. Let me just quickly say that I'm doing pretty well, meaning that I feel pretty good. I'm in hospice care, which has been a wonderful experience, and hopefully next week I won't have these problems, and I'll be able to provide more details.
Okay. So, Bill, is it okay if I share what problem you're facing right now?
Sure.
So, most of you who have been on painkillers know that one of the serious side effects is constipation, and it's really unpleasant, and it ain't the first time for Bill, and that's where we are right now, and it's giving him a bad time. So what I'm going to do is open this up a little bit because I think there's a bunch of people on this call who just want to say hello. Who would like to start with some greetings to Bill?
I'll start. Bill, this is Len.
Hey, Len.
Hey.
I've been listening to you. I've been listening to you guys all evening long. Unfortunately, I just wasn't able to, for some reason, to make my voice heard.
That's okay. Well, I just wanted to say, Bill and I were emailing recently, just a couple of days ago, and at the time I was on the train from Manhattan heading back up to Connecticut, and I told Bill that he had asked about my progress, my condition, and I said, wait till I get home and I'll follow up on that. And I still haven't done it yet, but I will. Definitely will. Bill, I'll fill you in on my progress, and that's really all I want to. I don't want to take up the group's time with anything more than that, but just glad to, very happy to hear your voice. Thanks for making that effort to join us.
Okay, terrific, Len, and I'll be looking forward to hearing your update whenever that becomes possible.
All right.
Who else would like to have a quick chat with Bill?
Hi, it's Carl Foreman.
Hi, Carl.
Hi. So I guess just briefly, wishing you well. I had sent you an email or two if you have a chance to take a look at some of the questions that I have posed whenever you're able, because I think the biggest question for me, as we have similar diagnoses and backgrounds and treatments, as to, based upon what you've experienced, what things maybe I should be pursuing or not pursuing. But that's probably the biggest question. I don't expect you to answer it now, but I threw that out there.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I am aware that you've been trying to reach me with these questions, Carl. It's been quite complicated on my end, and I just haven't been able to respond. But I will try really hard, within, by the end of this week.
No problem. As soon as you're able, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Bill, did you hear us talk about this Regeneron 5678?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Did you hear us talk about this trial, the Regeneron 5678?
Yes, I did.
And what are your thoughts on this? I forget what Len had the technical nomenclature for this drug, which I don't have, and Len's just stepped away for a second. But Len, what's the nomenclature for that Regeneron drug? What did you call it?
Oh yeah, Bill. It's a bispecific monoclonal antibody. One end attaches to PSMA on the prostate cancer cell, and the other to the CD28 antigen on the T cell, on the activated T cell. So the T cell can attack the prostate cancer.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, this is not something that I know about, but I can tell you that theoretically, it sounds like it should be promising.
Mm-hmm. Not just you. I don't think it was on any of our radar. Jerry Deans brought it up earlier on because Charles Drake wants to put him on that trial. I don't want to burden you at all, but if you're interested, I can forward you the trial protocol because it sounds like something.
Yeah. Why don't you do that? That would be good.
Because I know that you like reading that, like some of the guys like reading crime thrillers. Isn't that true?
Yes, that's true.
Okay, so that will come to you in the next few hours. So I'm just making a trial to Bill. Who else would like to say hello to Bill? Come on.
I would say hello, but he's sick of talking to me.
What was that?
About 3 or 4 times today, so he's probably sick. But I'm glad you made it, Bill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Bill, it's Ken Anderson as well.
I'm really sad that I wasn't able to, to cut in and participate. I don't know what the problem, what the technical problem was, but
Hey, you're in now.
Yeah, you're with
yeah.
us.
Yeah, but it's past my bedtime.
Okay.
So,
Well, just
but
go ahead, Bill.
I'm intent on getting this problem fixed by next week.
Okay.
And so I will be there next week, and I'll be able to give you guys an update on what's going on with me.
God bless you. Two people quickly. I know Ken Anderson wanted to say something, and Joe Boardman wanted to say something, and then we'll move on. Ken?
Yeah, it was just a quick hi and happy you're doing well. I know we haven't chatted much in the past, but I have listened to all your comments and I greatly appreciate it. I'm looking forward to hearing you on the next couple chats.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that.
And Bill, as you know, we just pulled Ken onto the board, and we're all very excited about that. And Joe Boardman,
go ahead.
Joe Boardman, did you want to say something to Bill?
Well, just glad you were able to get the technology to work, and it's good to hear your voice.
Thanks.
Hey, Rick,
I appreciate it.
This is Jim Ward. I just wanted to echo that, Bill. Nice to hear you.
Thanks, guys. And I should emphasize that I'm doing pretty well in terms of, feeling pretty good most of the time. I mean, next week I'll, give you a more detailed description of what's going on with me. But probably the most important thing to know is that I'm now in hospice care. Back in July, I sat down with my oncologist and my wife, and my oncologist, basically said there was nothing more that could be done treatment-wise for me. So I entered hospice, and Buffalo has an unbelievably good hospice organization. I'll tell you more about it next week, but they've been incredibly helpful. And in general, I'm doing pretty well. Most of the time I feel pretty good. And I think that despite the fact that I'm no longer being treated, I expect that I'm going to be able to squeeze out, I'm hoping, 6 to 9 more months of survival.
God bless you.
Bill, our next meeting is Tuesday at 6 o'clock Eastern time. Would you like me to give you a wake-up call?
Yes, that would be good, Jake. Thanks.
Okay. No problem whatsoever.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to. My wife is due home shortly from teaching, so I'm going to have to cut out here. But it's great to talk to you guys, and I definitely will be here next week.
Bill, I can't tell you how much we all love you on this call, and how we wish you well, and that you defy the odds. I don't know what else to say. I'll send you that trial when we get done. And God bless you.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Rick, and I appreciate the good thoughts from all of you guys. You're great.
Take care.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Talk to you next week.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
So, I just find it so humbling that a man who has decided he's not going to continue treatment and is in hospice care is so concerned about still helping others. It's remarkable. I don't know what to say about that. It leaves me a little speechless with a big lump in my throat. But that's Bill. All right. Ken, did you have Ken Anderson, did you have anything you'd like to talk about today?
Not really. I'm sorry about that. I stepped away for just a second. I'm just off to Houston tomorrow, so I'll give an update after I return.
Okay, and I'll get to your questions tonight.
No,
I haven't forgotten. I just
call until the 19th.
Okay, then maybe tomorrow I can do it too. Len, anything for you?
Not tonight, Rick. Thank you.
Okay, Joe Boardman, we want you to tell us a little bit about how you are. Carl Foreman,
Okay.
anything for you?
Yes, please.
Jim C. in Colorado, would you like to talk to us tonight?
Well, I wanted to thank everybody that helped me through a really rough spot. I've dropped Zytiga, and I'm still doing the Lupron, and I get a new oncologist.
Jim, can I hold you for a second? We'll come to you.
Of course.
I just want to see if you'd like some time, and we'll definitely give you some time.
No, I don't need any more time.
Oh, that's okay. We want to hear from it in full, and we'll come back to you, even if it's only a couple of minutes. Paul Frieder, anything for you?
Nope, I'm good tonight, thanks.
Sylvester, anything you'd like to talk about?
No, thank you. I'm good.
Okay. Peter, Kafka, anything you'd like to talk about?
No, just something on that last comment about dropping Zytiga. I wouldn't mind.
Okay, we'll come to you after we go to Jim. Rich Jackson, anything for you, sir?
No, all quiet on the Eastern Front. Getting ready for the biker event.
Okay, all right. But it's good to hear your voice. And Larry Fish, anything for you?
Nothing from me, Rick. Thanks.
Okay, so let's start with Jeff Marchi, who we haven't heard from. Excuse me. Let's start with Joe Boardman first of all, who we also heard from for a long, long time, and because he's been so busy climbing mountains, he doesn't have time to call in to us on a Monday or a Tuesday. But we've woken him up a little bit. He's done some super support work this week that we're really grateful for to one of our other participants. And, when we ask you to call somebody, there's usually a very good reason why. And I think it was a very important intervention. And Joe, we're really grateful. Why don't you tell us a little bit about where you are in your own situation?
Okay. I'm doing okay, basically. I'm in this weird getting my PSA checked every 90 days, and it's been undetectable. So that's been good for over 2 years. But according to my doctors, that's the good news. The bad news is, well, we're expecting one of these times it's not going to be. So I go in end of October for my next 90-day test, and we'll see how that comes out. But meanwhile, I've been moderately healthy, and I was threatening to make a web page of something like, here's what eunuchs do, and showing pictures of me climbing Aconcagua and Kilimanjaro, but my wife talked me out of it, so I'm not going to make that web page. But it's been going along okay. I've been continuing to struggle some with my emotional up and down, so I know it's not a Thursday call, but that's been hard. Had a great summer. I did, in fact, when I was talking to the other participant, I realized I was writing these things down I hadn't really thought out completely, saying, well, 3 years into this whole nightmare, I actually had some of the happiest days of my life, perhaps the happiest days this summer. And so that's a nice thing to be able to say. Right this minute, sadly, I'm on my back in bed because one of the things I was doing this summer was building a cabin up in Wyoming with my son. and I was jerking on this giant 700-pound log all by myself, fell over backwards, and just like a cartoon character, just plopped over completely backwards, landed on my back, and I was lying there going, okay, with a 3.1 DEXA score, I probably broke everything in my back, and it turned out I only broke my sacrum, and it hasn't healed, and I don't know if it's the osteoporosis from the ADT and the Zytiga and all the other chemo and all the other treatments, because I've got pretty serious osteoporosis, but so far the indications is it's not the cancer run wild up and down my spine, but I'm going to go see my doctor tomorrow to see what we can do about making it where I can actually stand up straight again. So, and there's some other crazy stuff going on, right? Like you mentioned that the University of Colorado health place I go down in Denver at the Anschutz Cancer, they're great folks, and they have this marketing scheme about live extraordinary. So they're always trying to find people doing crazy things. And one of the ladies got hooked up with me and wrote that story you were talking about that was in their newsletter. But now the really nutty part is somebody over in their marketing department has gotten a hold of that. And now they've sent a video crew to come be with me. So they're making a video, and it's, I don't know, there's good and bad to it, right? I mean, have somebody making a movie about you because you're dying is sort of a pain in the ass. But in fact, the poor girl who's making the movies, I said, what kind of thing are you making? What are these like? And so she showed me a few of them. And like the first one she showed me was this guy who had terrible OCD and opted for this deep brain stimulation. So he had this brain surgery to put in these electrodes with a little pacemaker type thing to make his OCD go away, and it was a huge success. And I'm looking at her like, have you ever done a story like mine where, we're kind of, you're not sure the ending's going to be that happy? And she's like, no, actually we've never done one like yours. So they came and visited us once when my son was going off to college to get the cliche tearful exit of the son while we were sitting there crying. And then later this month, we're going to meet him in Wyoming, and I'll be working on the cabin some more, even with my broken sacrum, I guess. And we're going to be filming all that part. But it's been a pretty weird run this summer. But health-wise, I can't argue because I'm still stuck on undetectable, besides the Mets to bones and lungs.
And that's on Zytiga, correct? You're still on Lupron and Zytiga?
Yeah, all I'm doing right now is Lupron every 6 months and Zytiga every morning.
Now,
but I also did, I also had a failed surgery right at the beginning, and then 6 rounds of docetaxel. So I'm sort of this case of, how they like to move things to the front and do them sooner rather than later, castrate sensitive versus castrate resistant. And I basically got everything up front. The only thing I haven't had is radiation.
Well, when this disease comes back, you're right in the sweet spot for the lutetium. So you're going to be around for a lot longer than you think. And we're going to help you. And like you heard today, there's new stuff coming out. Now, just for those on the call who don't know what Joe has done, he has scaled how many of the highest peaks on this planet?
Oh, a bunch in Colorado and Wyoming with my son, but then he got wacky and we went down to Argentina last December, December of 18, and we climbed Mount Aconcagua, which is kind of non-trivial. It was 22,600. And so turns out it's the highest mountain outside the Himalayas. So we were the highest people in the southern and the western hemisphere. So we claim it was 3/4 of the globe. And then this summer, I think my son would have rather do other stuff, but you could see what he was planning. It's like, I better do this with Daddy while he's still vertical. So we went to Tanzania and climbed Kilimanjaro, the 3 of us.
What month was that? I have a good friend.
July, end of July. Well, actually, we were there August. I guess we summited August 11th.
August 11th. Oh, I have to find out because I have a friend who summited right around the same time. I will ask her. Anyway,
it's a wacky. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to see if there's anybody that would like to talk to you about your treatment path on this call.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions about Joe's treatment path or how he's feeling? Peter, maybe to make Joe feel a little better, maybe you'd like to tell him what you did in terms of exploitations and lifting things and what happened to you.
Oh yeah, I broke my femur.
Ouch.
Yeah, I volunteered for someone delivering animal feed to their rescue animal operation. Tripped over their doorway. But I'm doing better. I'm doing pretty good now. Therapy.
One of my challenges right now is my wonderful insurance company. They don't believe that Prolia, denosumab, Xgeva, whatever you want to call it, is appropriate for me, so they won't pay for it. So I got to pay an extra $2,200 a year just for my 2 shots.
That's pretty stupid. So my question, Joe, is, you know, I lived in Colorado on the Front Range for 14 years ago. Went to school during the Roaring '60s in Boulder and so forth. But
cool.
We have some guys on our call from Colorado, and I have some personal friends up in Steamboat and other places. But I don't hear many people feeling they get great treatment options in the Denver area. And I just want to get a feel for you about.
I've been really I can't really. I went to a lot of second, third, fourth opinion places while I was going from let's save him to stage 4. But I'm really impressed with the people I have at UCH. You know, it's a research hospital. I'm a geophysicist and perseverate, as my doctor says, about my condition. So I spend all day reading about, technical things online. And I think, I've learned a lot of things on this call, but on these calls, but I think they're right on at UC Health at the Anschutz Cancer Pavilion. They have a special urinary UG oncology practice.
Okay, we just don't. I haven't heard many people, really following up with good oncologists in the Denver area. So,
Joe, who do you
names? That would be great.
Yeah, who do you recommend as the go-to GU med oncs in?
Well, it's a funny story because I went to a surgeon for I was there and they said, look, it's Gleason 9, but your bone scan's clean. What the hell? We'll roll the dice and do the surgery. Not everybody would do this, but let's try it. So what the hell? And so I started off down that path, and when the radiation guy said the same thing, he said, if I were you, I'd go do the surgery. And so I did. It failed. And then when I went and got that acetate PET scan at Phoenix Molecular, I kind of went into shock probably when the guy's going, oh yeah, residual cancer here in the prostate bed, big met on your right acetabulum. But what I'm really worried about are all these nodes in both lungs. My wife and I are looking at each other going, what? And so I went to UCH and they said, oh, now you need a medical oncologist and he's going to be Dr. Bernard. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And I wasn't really thinking straight about, interviewing him. So I ended up with this young Canadian guy who just come from Dana-Farber. And he knew all his stuff, but he was frankly terrible in terms of a bedside manner or anything else. And the good news is he's just decided to move back to Vancouver. And so I'm going to get the one that I really wanted, which her name's Elizabeth Kessler, Kessler. And so I go to this US2 meeting here in Boulder, and she's apparently like the wizard, and actually went to her once while I was seeing Bernard and expecting somehow she could fix everything, and she just looked at me like, what are you doing here? You're a patient of Bernard. But now I'm actually going to get her as a medical oncologist, and I think she's a human being and expert in what she does.
I made a note of the names and of Elizabeth Kessler's name, and I think that's helpful to us. Anyway, look, it is great to hear you. We're sorry that you're back bothering you. And, let us know, come back sooner than before. And
Oh yeah, I'll try to come back regularly.
okay, and tell Karen she's very welcome on the Caregivers call.
Yeah, thank you.
We'll be talking to you. Let us know when that video is around, man. We want to.
Oh my God, I'm just afraid I'm going to say a bunch of stuff on there, and the poor girl will have to take it back to a producer and go, "Hey, we can't make anything out of this." But we'll see.
Oh, I do have one question for you. I never noted your age. How old are you?
I'm 58 now, so I got diagnosed like 55. I thought I had won the lottery, and then boom, I get my biopsy results.
Okay. All right. Let's move on, and I think let's go to appropriately. Let's go to Jim C. And Jim, just give us a quick update on how you're feeling this week.
I'm feeling better, and I want to give props to Joe. You referred vaguely that he reached out. It was me, and it was incredibly helpful. And I'm so sorry, Joe, to hear about your back, but you helped me enormously through a really rough time. And I've gotten off Zytiga. I'm still doing the Lupron, and I see the same doctor who's terrible, Bernard, at least in terms of he should be in research, not the clinical work. I agree, but it's what it is. So I'm hoping I get Kessler, the same doctor you're trying, transferring to. I'm hoping I get the same one and I can convince them, but I still have to see Bernard next week. And I haven't told him I cut off the Zytiga, even though I'm still taking the Lupron. And I'm sure he's going to, tell me like he did before, I'll see you in the morgue. And he's got the worst bedside manner of any doctor I've ever dealt with in my entire life, and I'm 67. So, we've got some similarities, and your conversation and your email was incredibly helpful. And I'm glad I could say that with other people appreciating it. It was very, very important.
It helped me a lot too.
Thanks, Joe. Anybody else like to say anything to Jim? Or I know Peter, you wanted to ask something about stopping Zytiga.
Yes, this is not the first time this conversation's come up in my experience. Jim St. James, I was talking to him the other day. He just came back from the PCRA conference, and he's pretty convinced that Zytiga's kind of ruining his life in terms of muscular pain. And he's decided to stop it. He's going to talk to his med onc about switching over to enzalutamide. He'd be curious whether he sees any difference, having done both of them now, but a little bit. But this is not the first time this conversation's come up. I mean, several years ago, Mike Tamales was on Zytiga. He couldn't take it at all. He had to get off of it. He didn't live very long. I made it through a year of it. I'm convinced that it did something to my muscles and my legs, and a little bit of brain issues and so forth. But other than that, I did sell through it and did it for a year. And I'm not totally adverse to going back on it if my PSA starts coming back up again, which it's starting to show a little bit of creep. But I tried talking to the Zytiga people at the PCRI conference, and I got nowhere. I haven't taken the time yet to call them up directly, and I'll try to do that this week. It's just I don't know. I don't know about. I know it's got some side effects, and I know it hits some people pretty badly, and what to do. Just asking.
Well, I think this is Jim. I think you hit the nail on the head. I have a friend of mine who's on Lupron and Zytiga. He's got minimal issues. For me, I was suicidal. It was the worst, but it was me. And I think that you have to. I quit the Zytiga, and my position was I'd rather be dead than take Zytiga. But I know that for probably thousands of people, Zytiga saves their life, and it's a good thing. For me, it was unbearable, and I couldn't live with it. And so I cut the Zytiga out, and I obviously the Lupron lasts for a while, and I don't get tested till next week, but I just could not handle it. And I may be one of 10 or one of 100, but it was, I'd rather go to sleep than take Zytiga. But I know that's not everybody. That's only me.
Are you feeling better now that you've stopped?
Yes. Although it takes a while, and I understand that, but yes, the answer is within 3 days, I started to feel a little better. But
that's the answer I got from Jim St. James too. As soon as he stopped, he started feeling better. He felt he could actually getting up on a surfboard today or tomorrow. So I mean, it's Zytiga does get out of your system fast. It's not like Lupron. It's
right.
My oncologist told me once you stop, you stopped. It doesn't stay around for a long time.
Yeah. Well, I've been off 6, 7, 8 days. I don't know anymore, but I've been off for a while, and I feel like I don't want to die. And when I was taking Zytiga, I wanted to die. That's how severe it was for me. And I know that's just me. That doesn't mean that it's not a good drug for other people, because I know other people that are on it and tolerate it, and it's, lowered their risk of, other Mets and all that. But for me, it was death. And I stopped, and I just stopped it cold turkey, and I just got off it, and I will never take it again.
Did you stop the prednisone cold turkey or not?
I'm sorry?
Did you stop the prednisone cold turkey as well?
No, but I take prednisone for a lung infection I have, or a lung disease. So I still had, I was taking 40 milligrams of prednisone. So the 5 milligrams they were prescribing was meaningless to me.
Right.
So I don't have that issue like other people do. And I would agree with you, Rick, that if, on prednisone, if you're not used to it, or you got to do that gradually.
Sure, absolutely. I do want to do one quick thing before we move on. In the interest of fairness, Dennis, maybe you want to talk about your experience on abiraterone?
I have only been on Xtandi. I have not done.
Yeah, I meant Dennis Correa, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
I'm on the the abiraterone Zytiga. And what were you looking for, Rick?
Just saying, as a balance, do you want to talk about your experience? How long have you been on it?
Yeah, it's almost 2 years, and it's been done wonders for me. My initial diagnosis was I was metastatic to the bone, and had 5 Mets, and staying on the Lupron and the Zytiga is, PSA's less than 0.1, and my scans show decreasing metastasis lighting up on the scans, or smaller ones. The prostate has gotten smaller, the lymph nodes have gotten smaller, and the bone metastases have gone down.
Great.
The side effects are, to me, I don't know, maybe slightly more with the Zytiga than with the Lupron, but I pretty much, I guess, adjusted to it. At first, the night sweats and the hot flashes, and the annoying stuff, putting on weight in the abdomen and so forth. It's definitely, the whole thing is a whole life-changing experience, but for me, it's something I'm going to keep doing until it doesn't work anymore.
Well,
I
did
I
want to
would do
mention
the exact same thing if, and I may be one of 100 that had the reaction that I had, and I don't transfer that reaction to other people. And I know I have friends that are on it, and they don't have the reaction I did, just like you.
Yeah, Jim,
And
one more thing I just wanted to comment is that it sounds like these reactions you're having are more than the normal things that the drug manufacturer lists in their literature about the drug. And you probably should notify, and I think it's the NIH, when you start having reactions like you are that are more severe and not presently indicated in the literature, they should know about it.
I agree, and I'm glad you brought it up, because I will do that.
Thank you. Thanks, Jim. And we need to move on here, but I just want to take 2 seconds for 2 commercials. The first is that Thursday, we have our Speaking Freely group, which Jake is kindly going to lead, and I'll be his wingman. Any of you that want to talk about some of these issues that came up today, along with maybe people with other different types of cancers, we really look forward to you joining us on that call on Thursday night. It's an easy call. We can talk about pretty much anything, and I think some of you guys may find it very helpful. So join us at the same time as you did today, wherever you are. The other thing I wanted to say is, if any of you have any friends, associates, family who are suffering from MS, multiple sclerosis, we are starting an MS call on September the 24th at 8:30 Eastern. 8:30 Eastern. We have a web page now as of today. We're all set to go. And we're relying on people to reach out and let others know. And many of you in this group today know the benefit of this peer-to-peer virtual support. And I think it will be tremendous for a lot of MS sufferers. But we've got to get the word out. So if they have an email address, they can send it to me, info@ancan.org, and we'll get them on the list for the reminder. The call initially is going to be once a month, but it may well go more. So I'm going to move on. We've got 2 more people to talk to, Jeff Marchi and then Carl Foreman. Jeff, you're up.
Hello there. Well, Joe's testing right now sure sounds familiar, but I get mine every 30 days. If I waited 90 days, mine would have already tripled. I just back. I just had my third relapse. I had surgery in July of 2010. In April of 2014, I had radiation because it came back. In March of 2017, I started Lupron because it came back and was double. Well, it doesn't double every month. Mine goes about 50% every month. So now my doctor, Friday, I had a bone scan and a CT scan. They came out with nothing. They found nothing. So it apparently has not spread unless I need one of those radio tracers to see if they find something with that. But my doctor has recommended that the best things to do would be just continue on with Casodex biclutamide daily and see how that works. I'm not metastatic, so whatever they've got for that doesn't apply. But they've got Nubequa, which just came out on 7/30, but she tells me that's for new people who are just starting Lupron. I hear about Firmagon, all these other drugs. Zytiga, I don't think I want to touch that. I took Lipitor for about a year on Lupron, and it crippled me, absolutely, literally crippled me. I could barely walk, and I'm afraid I'd have the same thing. But I don't know if that's for where this. I'm just wondering what people would recommend other than taking biclutamide, the Casodex. What else should I be considering since, it's the first 3 months. It's 3 months ago, I hit, instead of less than 0.01, I was 0.01. And 3 months later, I'm 0.03. And at the rate I usually go, I'll be over 1 in about 2 months, maybe 3 at the most. Is there anything you guys could recommend that I do other than Casodex or in as well as it?
So let me just be clear. Right now, you're on your Lupron, and you're at 0, and your PSA is 0.03 or 0.3? 0.03.
Yeah, 0.03.
Okay, and it was 0.01.
From that to 02 to 02, stayed at 02 for the next test. I have a test every month, but in a 3-month period, it went from 0.01 to 0.03.
Okay.
And
is your testosterone
less than 20? And it showed it to actually be 6 in a very detailed test.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna turn this one to Len, and I just want to say one thing. There are several drugs that are approved for castrate-resistant, non-metastatic prostate cancer, and they include Alida, apalutamide, and darolutamide, the Nubequa, which Len is taking, which I certainly have never heard can only be prescribed when you start Lupron, because Len will tell you, they just gave it to him, and he's been on and off Lupron forever and a day. So, and enzalutamide has been approved for non-metastatic castrate-resistant. So there are 3 drugs, all of which are Casodex-like. I think the issue is that she's holding off. Andrea is holding off until you get a more significant PSA, because there could be variance in that PSA. When it measures such small PSAs, it's not that reliable. But let's get some feedback from Len. I got too many Kens and Lens and Bens on the phone here. Go ahead, Len.
Thank you, Rick. However, you took the words out of my mouth. Everything that you've already told Jeff are the things that I would have recommended. So, yeah, I can understand why your oncologist might want to wait a little bit for the PSA to rise a little more. And I don't think you have anything to worry about by waiting. A rise from 0.01 to 0.03 is nothing like a rise from, let's say, 1 to 3. There's a huge difference.
Yeah, except that the last time I was rising, it went from 0.02 to 0.05 to 1.1 to 1.7 to 3.1. It kept going up. I mean, it's that was every 2 months. So and before that, it was the same thing when the relapse before that, it kept doubling or almost doubling quite often. So that's why I understand what you guys are saying, and I will go with the Casodex and we'll see what happens, because the likelihood of it spreading while I'm doing this is low. I know one guy who's only doing Casodex. He's been doing it for over a year. He had to convince his doctor to do it, and his PSA was staying stable. But I guess I'll find out. But I knew about the
high dose Casodex is a possibility, but that's not really your situation because you're doing the Lupron. But we know people years ago that used to do 150 milligrams of Casodex a day as a preventive, and it did work. My feeling is that if it were me, I definitely would want to get onto one of these second generation androgen receptor drugs, whether it be enzalutamide, apalutamide, or darolutamide, definitely, and preferably the darolutamide. And I think, you have to push and be your best advocate and find out why Andrea won't put you on that drug. But, it might be that she will when your PSA gets to 0.5 or to 1. She just wants to see where it's going.
No,
who else on the call would like to say something to Jeff?
I'll say something because this is Peter, Jeff, from Maui. Very similar situation as me. I had surgery some 5-6 years ago. I made it 2 years, and I had radiation. I've been on, like Len, I've been on intermittent ADT, and I watched my PSA double, but I was off of Lupron and Casodex in order to qualify for a PSMA scan, which when my PSMA started doubling every 6 weeks, when my PSA started doubling every 6 weeks, I qualified for the scan, and it picked up a couple of metastatic lymph nodes, and I had them radiated with a proton beam. And now I'm back, I'm off of everything, and I'm watching a very slow rise. 0.08 is still considered nothing. It's once it gets past 0.08 that you start watching it. And but if you're on ADT, either Lupron and or Casodex, you won't qualify for a trial of a PSMA scan. So you might, if it was me, and what I've done in the past is get on intermittent, get off of the drugs for a while, and watch your PSA and go for a higher tech scan and just see what the action is if you actually double in less than 8 weeks.
Actually, I was late on my Lupron shot in November of 17, and my PSA went from 0.01 to 0.6 in 1 month. I went back on Lupron and went down to less than 0.01. So if I got off of it, I'm going to just have major increases in PSA.
You might, but you won't qualify for a PSMA scan if you're on the drugs.
I understand.
That's all I'm saying. You might have to pay for it out of pocket.
Oh. But you'd have to stop taping the Lupron in order to get the scan, is what you're saying.
Yes, which is what I did. Yes.
Yeah.
I do intermittent.
Day. So a little late.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying that's my experience. I'm not giving you medical advice. I'm just.
Can I ask a question?
Just telling you what I did.
How long did they tell you had to be off of Lupron before the PSMA test?
You'd have to call the testing place and ask them.
I mean, anybody got even a vague idea? Is it 3 months, 6 months, a year?
I'd say 2 or 3 months probably to get it out of your.
Okay. All right.
That's
Okay.
just a guess. That's an
Hey,
educated
I'll
guess.
take the generality, and I don't worry. I won't hold you to it. But it's an issue because I'm in the same boat. I want to get into a PSMA trial, and I know I'm going to have to get off Lupron, and I've been doing 30-day shots instead of 3-month shots.
Wow.
For that reason. So yeah, 2-3 months, no problem.
Let's just go back to Jeff for a second. Jeff, one of the issues here, as you've heard, is whether you're on Lupron or you're not on Lupron. For these scans to really work, you've got to get to a higher level, somewhere, between probably about 0.65 and even better if you get up to 1 or over to get a decent result. So, I think that the anxiety over the increase from 0.01 to 0.03, while understandable, is something that you've got to try and manage a little better and maybe come on the call on Thursday. The reason being that there's so much that probably can be done if we can see where the cancer is. And we're not going to be able to see where the cancer is until the PSA gets higher. And if you're going to, you're ready to jump off a cliff because your PSA has gone 0.65, I don't know what we're going to do. You won't be around when we need to test you, So
No, I'm not that really.
Okay. But you get my gist. So I think, allow it to do what it's going to do. Try the Casodex, see if you get a response from the Casodex, which is like the weakest of all these androgen receptor drugs. If that's the first step, maybe it's a very first good step. You don't want to do the Zytiga, understood. I think what Andrea, I like Andrea very much, and I trust her as a great doctor. And I think she's just trying to find out whether you're receptive to an androgen receptor drug. And if you are, as your PSA gets to a higher level, she's going to prescribe a better drug than Casodex.
No, I got that right. I will definitely wait. I get a test every month, so I don't have to wait long.
Okay. And the other thing is, you might want to talk to her about Provenge, because technically you get 3 increases in a row. You're eligible for Provenge, and maybe now is a good time for you to do your Provenge.
Yeah, but is he metastatic, Rick?
No.
No, he doesn't know that.
He can't get Provenge.
Yeah.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you're right. That's right. They've never seen. They've never even seen anything in the lymph system, correct, Jeff?
Correct.
Well, I think what's going to happen is that we've got to let this rise. We've got to find out where it's coming from. As soon as you know where it's coming from, then keep this Provenge in your quill and be ready to ask for it, because you'll have had the background of the increase whilst on Lupron. And if we can see some lymph nodes, then we can run you right into to Provenge.
Thank you very much. I've got that written down.
Okay, and we got to keep going because it's 7:03. We haven't gotten to Carl Foreman yet, but we have now. Carl.
Well, I'm gonna have to talk very fast.
Yes. You always do. You always do. So I'm going to have to write even faster than you talk, Mr. Foreman. And by the way, Peter Kafka wants to know, how come he stuffed a bag for you at PCRI and you never showed up?
Ah, yes. Well, I did register for the PCRI conference, and by trying to get favorable airfare from the New York area out to California, it just was not feasible because I would have gone with myself and my wife. It would have been about $1,600 for the airfare plus the hotel. And I have 3 conferences coming up here in the New York area, 3 separate ones, one including this Saturday, which I hope to see Len at, the New York Academy of Medicine, which is being given jointly by Sloan Kettering, Columbia Presbyterian, and Weill Cornell. It's an all-day conference this Saturday, but that wasn't why that was one of the several things I wanted to talk about. The latest update for me, too, I met with my oncologist last week, and as those of you who have been following my my saga, I had been put on a PARP inhibitor, olaparib, a number of months ago. My PSA continues to be undetectable, thank God, and that's the third blood test so far on the olaparib. So that's continuing to work for me. I also had met with my primary care physician because the pain in my leg, which originally was the result of a blood clot, a partial blood clot, I was put on Eliquis, a blood thinner. It seemed to have been resolved, but there was still some leg pain. My primary care doctor said, okay, let's do an MRI of the lumbar spine, which I did have. And now I'm diagnosed with spinal stenosis, which I'm told, well, thank you to, welcome to being a senior citizen, as I'll be 65 in 2 months. But that's not necessarily unusual for, as we age, to get spinal stenosis. And my oncologist said there's nothing that he saw in a report that showed any evidence that it's a result of my prostate cancer diagnosis progressing in any way. So that was a good thing. I'm going to be starting physical therapy next week to help with the spinal stenosis. And I think that really was, just to summarize everything, those were the key points I wanted to talk about. I was glad to speak with Professor Bill earlier, and that's what I have for now. I'm sorry. One more thing. Okay. I was put on, at my request, on some type of an anti-anxiety medication a couple of months ago, and my primary doctor put me on sertraline 50 milligrams, and I've been on it for a couple of months, once a day. And I readdressed it with him this last Monday, and he said, well, why don't you consider medical marijuana? Okay, well, I've never smoked. I never intend to smoke. And I learned that in New Jersey, which it is available at these dispensaries, they do not have edible marijuana. So if you don't have edible marijuana, what are my other options to consider? If anybody has used it
I have.
Aha.
CBD without any THC. So you don't have any high, but it completely wiped out my night sweats and if for me, again, this is personal. I'm in Colorado, so everything's legal, but it was absolutely like turning a light switch on. And CBD is legal everywhere. It's legal in New Jersey.
Yes, and actually I started out with CBD oil, a tincture, and I was on it for a week. I don't know if I had much benefit, but then I read an article that said that CBD oil has potential negative consequences for certain prescription medications, which say that you need to avoid grapefruit juice or grapefruit. So
it acts like grapefruit juice. Any drug that interacts with grapefruit juice interacts with CBD. For some reason, there's some connection that I am not smart enough to understand. So I agree. If you're taking any medication that says don't drink grapefruit juice, I wouldn't do CBD oil.
Right, and the olaparib is one of those medications.
It may be. I obviously am not a doctor. I don't know. but I know that it completely wiped out the night sweats. For me, it worked.
Thanks. I'd like to ask anyone else on the call right now, because it's getting late, and so we want to be sure just to wrap this up properly. But who else? There must be some people that have used vaporizers on this call. Has anybody used a vaporizer? Wow.
You mean a vaping pen with marijuana?
No.
Yes,
I've never. Yeah, no, never.
I've used it. I've never heard of it being an acceptable treatment for. Oh, that's right. I was thinking depression, because you said you were on sertraline, Carl, which is actually an antidepressant.
Yes.
But it also has anti-anxiety properties.
I use the pot vaporizers.
I think that at one time I went back to the medical marijuana clinic to get some more of the vaping pens. They said, no, we don't carry that anymore. And I wonder if it has something to do with what we're hearing in the news now about the lung damage related to the e-cigarettes.
There is a problem with marijuana, but it's only with certain main manufacturer products. If you're using the main manufacturer products, they do not have any vitamin E in them. But there's one other thing. They have pills now that are 25 milligrams, 50 milligrams, and 100 milligrams. And I'll tell you, some people get knocked over with 10. So if they have those as well. I don't know if you can find them, but a CBD over the counter. Care Design makes them, but that's THC. They also make CBD, but if that way you can have pot without having to smoke anything. But the vaporizers work; they're very high pot content, so you only have to take a few hits, and it gets rid of a lot of anxiety.
I've taken the CBD, and I take it as a tincture. I take it twice a day, and it eliminated 2 medications from that they gave me that were terrible side effects. And again, this is individual. I'm obviously not a doctor, but the CBD oil has, and again, I can't smoke. So it's got zero, anything that gets you high. It's a I don't know what it is. I have no way to even define it, but it worked for me. I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
So let me come in here. I mean, CBD oil may not be an option for Carl.
No.
You mentioned the tincture. What do you drop the tincture onto to take it? Just onto your tongue?
I drop the tincture under my tongue in the morning. I drop it at night. It eliminates my need for Xanax, and it eliminates my night sweats. At least it has so far. And I can sleep, and it has been a major benefit for me. Now, again, this is anecdotal. Don't even consider this as serious medical stuff. It's not. But for me, a friend of mine said, take it, try it.
Okay.
And it has absolutely been a godsend in the last month for me.
Fantastic. And so so Carl, to come back to your question, I think that you have some options. When you go, I understand that in Jersey you can go to a CBD clinic, or medical marijuana clinic. Is that right? Medical
Yes,
marijuana.
right. There are dispensaries, and the patient must present a card which
Right,
has to be issued by your doctor.
right. And you have that card, correct?
Not yet. I'm in the process of getting it.
But that's
Hold on,
THC.
Jim,
CBD, you don't need it.
Jim, we've got it. We're not talking about THC. He knows he's got to get CBD. He's got that message. So you'll go when you get the card. Our recommendation is see if you can get the pills, which Jeff talked about. See if you can get the tincture that Jim talked about, or see if you can handle a vape, like a pen if they have it, and you want it weighted, heavily weighted to CBD. What you don't want is the regular THC, which they won't sell you. These medical marijuana clinics are set up especially to help you and to find the right combination for you. And so I think that's three options. The vape, I mean, I've been with guys who had vaping machines, and they just take they just take a puff. I don't exactly know how the vape works, but it may not be right for you to take it into your lungs. And if it isn't, then talk about the pills or the tincture.
Rick, if whoever's on the call and I don't know them needs the tincture, I'll mail it to them from Colorado.
Fantastic. Thanks, Jim. So there you go, Kyle.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. And good luck. And I think what really is rewarding is to hear that you're doing well on the olaparib. How are your blood counts?
Still shows slightly anemic. My alkaline phosphatase is really on the very low end, and I asked my oncologist about that because early on in my disease, my diagnosis, I had a high alkaline phosphatase, which was an indication of bone disease, and I am metastatic to the pelvic bone. So, but in talking to the oncologist, the fact that it's low, he says, well, he has nothing really to.
Mm-hmm.
He has no answer to say no that whether that's really a bad thing to have a low alkaline phosphatase.
I can't answer that one either. I only know when it's high. But what I will say is that you're keeping a close eye, because we do know that that's an issue around the PARP inhibitors, that they do depress the blood counts, and you're keeping an eye on that, and that's good to hear. One thing that just came to my mind, I meant to say it earlier on when we were talking about, when Jerry was talking about going to the VA. I think most of you know, but you can go to the VA and your regular hospital at the same time. So if you're a vet, we encourage all the vets to be sure to register and have a urologist or medical oncologist at the VA, for the reason that you can get certain drugs a lot cheaper. So these expensive drugs like enzalutamide, abiraterone, and probably the apalutamide, and probably the darolutamide, if they've been FDA approved, you may be able to get them through the VA, through working with your oncologist there and putting them in touch with your prescribing oncologist, and then you'll pay $8 a month for these highly expensive drugs. So it's just a good little trick that I've seen work several times for the vets.
Well, Rick, can I say one more thing? And it relates to exactly what you were saying. And because Zytiga, even with Medicare and a drug supplement, was almost $500 a month. What they have, if you ask and pursue it, the drug companies subsidize and they gave me a $7,500 a year subsidy for Zytiga.
Right.
And it was, it didn't take a lot to qualify. It wasn't, oh, I'm desperate. I'm on Medicare and I have a supplement. They still subsidized everything.
I got one too until they switched me to the generic for Mylan. So now it cost me $6,000 to switch to the generic.
Oh, God. They didn't do that to me. When they switched to the generic, they continued the grant, as they call it, but it's subsidized by the pharmaceutical companies, and they kept it going, even though you're right, it went to exact same thing, and they kept paying. So
Okay.
all I'm saying is they have money to keep
Yeah,
their drug out there for us.
They do. And any of you that run across problems, as some of you know, I have very good connections with Janssen. I'm going to take up Peter's issue with Caroline Pavis. In fact, well, Peter's left, but I'm going to encourage him to write to Caroline because he knows her too, and I think it will carry some weight. All right, guys, we're 20 minutes over. Sorry. But boy, have we covered a lot of stuff in this call. And
thank you, Rick.
It's a pleasure, right? And I'm still blown away with this new drug that Jerry Dean's told us about. And we've sure had some inspirational people talk to us today. So thank you all. I am off to Utah on Wednesday morning to meet Len on Thursday, who's going to Kanab with his family and has invited me to join them. It's a 500-mile drive for me, and I'm looking forward to doing it. And this is a bucket trip for Len. That's why he left a little early, because he's got a pack tonight. And we're hopefully going to get to some of these hikes. If I can convince him, we'll go up Angel's Landing it will be I think the 4th or the 5th time for me, but I don't know if he's ready to do it. He's a little worried about the people that apparently fell off, but all right, guys, we'll give you a report on our trip to Kanab next Tuesday.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Next Tuesday, the 24th. And don't forget, I'll be doing this from Utah with Jake. I'll Speaking Freely on the 19th. And also on the 24th, as soon as we get done with this call, we'll have to finish quickly because half an hour later, I have my first multiple sclerosis call starting, and please tell people. Okay, good night, everybody.
Right. Thank you, everybody.
Night.
Goodbye.
Good night. Good night.
Thank you, Rick.